Hi, and welcome back to WVU Extension Today. I'm your host, Joel Brown. Today we're going to talk about a subject very important that we all should know a little bit more about: fire safety. First off, let's head over to Mark Lambert to learn more about the WVU Extension Fire Service.
The West Virginia University Fire Service Extension has been around since 1931. They started training miners to fight fires in coal mines, and then eventually spread into training firefighters for volunteer mainly, and some paid departments in the state. Nowadays we train all over the country. We train firefighters paid, firefighters volunteer, military firefighters, and private industrial firefighters. The basics are a basic firefighter knowing about the gear, how to put on your personal protective equipment, how fireground operations happen, trucks, pumps, those kind of things are the basics. We do most of our training, we go to the fire departments to do the training. Most of our equipment is mobile in that sense because West Virginia is such a rural state. If a department has to take all their members to our academy in Weston, it may leave their area unprotected. So we try to go to them, but we do also offer classes at the State Fire Academy, which is at Jackson's Mill, Weston, West Virginia. We train the aircraft rescue firefighting for all 8 commercial airports in West Virginia. They have to have yearly training under FAA federal regulations, and we train them in aircraft crash and fire for airplanes and helicopters. We have a plane with only one wing that we can mimic a cabin fire, a cockpit fire, a wing fire, or a tire fire. And we can also mimic fires on a helicopter with a helicopter prop we have. We have 2 mobile training units that we can simulate house fires or business fires. It comes in the shape of a trailer for a tractor trailer, but we can expand it to a second floor. We can mimic various fire situations in the trainer, and because of the way it's designed, if there's an emergency, we can shut the thing down and have a trainee out of there instantly if there's some kind of problem. We try to have an annual firefighter training. The last few years it's been in December. We're looking to move it to summer as we move forward. It's professional and volunteer firefighters come and take various classes, mainly hands-on, what we call hot training, hands-on training, in advanced firefighting, advanced rescue techniques, those kind of things. What makes our program unique is we try to take the training to the fire departments. We try to take all the equipment we need mobily to them so they don't have to leave their communities and can get the training they need and still be able to defend their communities. Our training is also unique because we have the only national junior firefighter camp that's overnight training.
Backing the rope, we will need to pull your rescue team up the hill just a little bit more.
Home fire safety has seen an increasing amount of importance recently, and that's really been due to the amount of studies that have been done on the speed of fire growth. Modern furnishings tend to allow us less time to evacuate our homes in the case of a fire, making things like smoke detectors, escape plans, and certain other actions you're going to take even more important. It used to be you had about 17 minutes to evacuate your home in the event of a fire. Now it's about 3 minutes. So that drives home the importance. Kitchen fires are something firefighters respond to often. One of the more likely causes of kitchen fires is unattended cooking. Just leaving the stove and leaving a pot on it. Maybe even elderly people forget that they started to cook is something that tends to happen a lot. The other thing that we see quite a bit are combustible items sitting in or near the stove or oven. Sometimes people forget they stored something in the oven and they turn it on, or fail to take the directions out of the broiler before starting it. So we want to keep combustibles such as those items or paper towels and towels from laying near burners. In the event of a fire, it's really important to be secluded from it. That's going to increase your chance for survival tremendously. A closed door, if you're in your bedroom, we preach the close before you doze message. If you're behind that closed door, it could mean the difference between being exposed to 1,000 degrees worth of temperature to 100 degrees worth of temperature, or 10,000 parts per million of CO, or 1,000 parts per million of CO. It increases survivability greatly. Other things that you can do is have smoke detectors throughout your home. Proper locations for those would be either in the sleeping areas of the bedrooms or immediately outside of them, or both. One thing that we do want to stress against is not having them too close to a stove. That kind of leads to the false alarm mentality and can cause people to want to ignore those. Also, make sure you have them on all levels of your home, including attached garages, attics, and basements. In those instances, the interconnected ones work really well to alert you of a fire or possibility of a fire on a floor that you're not currently occupying. As far as smoke detectors in your home, placement's key. You know, in the bedrooms just outside of those living areas will give you a early notification of fire whenever you're sleeping, which is extremely important. We also want to make sure they're high enough on the wall, or even better on the ceiling, because smoke rises. That's going to allow them to go off earlier in the event of a fire. You also want to make sure you check your batteries in your smoke detector frequently. We recommend checking them monthly and then replacing them with daylight savings time. Whenever you change your clock, change your batteries. That's kind of the message that we all preach. The other thing is that most people aren't aware that their smoke detectors actually go bad after a certain period of time. Most manufacturers recommend replacement after 10 years of purchase. And then lastly, just keep a fire extinguisher handy. You don't want it so close to the stove that you can't get to it in the event of the fire, but a small fire extinguisher close to the stove could save a lot of property damage or even save a life. With fire extinguishers, you want to make sure you're paying attention to them over time and caring for them. One of the things we recommend is to monthly take the fire extinguisher out, turn it upside down, just tap the sides of it. That allows the extinguishing agent inside of it to be loose and not become as hard as concrete. One of the other things with fire extinguishers is just reviewing how to use them. We recommend remembering the acronym PASS, which stands for pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep back and forth so as to contain the fire. But if you're going to use a fire extinguisher, make sure you're confident in using it. If you're not, just leave and call 911, which you should be doing anytime you have a fire, so that the professionals can make sure that the fire is actually out. One of the things we recommend is to monthly take the fire extinguisher out, turn it upside down, just tap the sides of it. That allows the extinguishing agent inside of it to be loose and not become as hard as concrete. One of the other things with fire extinguishers is just reviewing how to use them. We recommend remembering the acronym PASS, which stands for pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the handle, and sweep back and forth so as to contain the fire. But if you're going to use a fire extinguisher, make sure you're confident in using it. If you're not, just leave and call 911, which you should be doing anytime you have a fire, so that the professionals can make sure that the fire is actually out.
90% of the fires that a fire extinguisher is actually used on are put out by the fire extinguisher. The smaller fire extinguishers, have them around different places. You don't just have one. All kitchens ought to have one. All work areas ought to have one. Utility rooms for sure. And if you have a workshop or a garage outside, invest in one of the bigger ones. There are different sizes, as we hit about. There's also different types. They come in, ABC is probably the most common. And the reason it is because of what class of fire that fire extinguisher will fight. Class A is like, think ash, things that burn. Textiles, paper, things like that, wood, makes ash. So that's a Class A. Class B, think burning liquids. So that's like oil, gas, grease, things like that. Class C is current, think current, and that's electrical fires. So an ABC extinguisher for the homeowner is probably the way to go.
Escape plans have really been taught to children in the past, especially whenever we visit schools. They're even more important for adults. I said just a minute ago, you have 3 minutes to escape a fire now, where in the past it was 17 minutes. And the problem is, we're creatures of habit. We always want to take the way in and out of our house that we usually do. And in the event of a fire, that's probably not the best idea. So we should be practicing multiple ways out of different rooms in our house, committing those to memory, and sitting down with our kids and drawing those routes of entry and exit up. And then we also need to be talking about what we don't do after we've got out of the house. We don't want to re-enter to try to save pets or toys or money or things that we deem to be precious in our life, those material possessions won't mean as much as losing a family member to a fire. So what we have is a dollhouse. Originally it's called the Palmer's House. These were used in the fire service, developed to teach fire behavior to firefighters about how ventilation and different openings can impact the fire behavior in a structure fire, primarily residential fires. This dollhouse is representative of a two-story house. As you can see, we have 4 compartments we're going to essentially be burning or not burning in. We have a downstairs room on the left, which will be where we start the fire at. You can see the crib stacked inside. It has an immediate opening through the wall into this compartment. There's nothing closing that opening. So the smoke, the heat, the products of combustion, they can all move freely into this opening. Above it is a immediate opening that or an immediate room that has an opening in the floor. This does have a simulated door that we will be taking on and off of it. What this will allow us to show is having a fire on the first floor of a residential structure, how it will or will not move to the second floor because of the closing of a door at the top of a stairwell. The 4th compartment that we're going to be opening and closing on the front simulates a closed door bedroom. You've heard of the fire safety message, close before you doze. This room here is completely closed off, simulating having no door that is open to allow those byproducts of combustion and the heat to flow freely into it, therefore making it more tenable for the occupants on the inside. We also have a 5th compartment, which we'll be using a little bit today. It's up here, it's the attic space. It has an opening that we can control in the ceiling and on the roof line. So eventually we'll move our fire through all 3 of these compartments and up into the attic and out the roof. So it's going to take the fire a minute to build because there's not a lot of fuel in here. Modern day fuels, are modern day couches and recliners, even the tables. Think of everything you're around. They're not wood anymore. They're not solid wood and cotton. This here really isn't either. OSB has glues and other impregnated chemicals to help it bind together and be strong before fire. But because we're just using a simple small crib stack, it's going to take it a little bit to take off and build the amount of pressure we need. But what I do want to talk to you about is a fire this size is what in the fire service we refer to as incipient stage. Incipient stage fires are what you're looking to use a fire extinguisher on. These are the size of a wastebasket, something small. Smaller than you is generally an incipient stage fire. These are why you keep a fire extinguisher in your home or in your place of business. Those are the fires that you can help prevent from growing into larger catastrophes. You'll notice as I open and close the door, you're going to see the smoke level kind of raise. We got an exhaust up high, the intake's down low. Whenever we talk about closing doors, we're trying to keep all those products in one room and not allow any fresh air to be drawn in the bottom. Anytime there's byproducts of combustion exiting a compartment, whether that's thick smoke or light gray smoke, there's still fresh air being drawn in from somewhere. Because for every piece of mass that's shot out of that compartment, there has to be something drawn in to replace it. We've still got a small fire, so the pressure and the byproducts combustion, the smoke, they're not great in the amount. So we don't have a lot shooting out over here. We have a really big space, big opening for the small amount of smoke being developed by the fire. Now if I just take a notion and shut the door behind this and leave it shut for a few seconds, we're going to see what the fire growth does on the inside. Right now it's using up all the available oxygen in the 2 compartments it has available to it. Once it has used up all that oxygen, because it can't gather anymore from the outside, that airflow is restricted, it's going to decrease in size. The amount of heat that it produces is going to dwindle. The amount of smoke that it produces is going to go down. Now both compartments will be completely charged with smoke, but the growth is going to be stifled. Notice I've got white smoke, very little flame on the inside. We'll see if it lights back off here for a second on its own. It probably is not going to because it's an early stage fire. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in. Fire is easily relit because we've already got preheated materials in there.
Go ahead and take that out again. So now we're going to give the fire a few minutes, and because we've created an opening over here, you'll notice we've got our smoke billowing this way because we got a bit of a breeze coming in from this side. All our fresh air intake is from the first compartment. All the smoke is exiting over here. Our flames are naturally going to be drawn around that the more I close this compartment off. Notice how much thicker and blacker the smoke is starting to get since I opened that door back up. It's drawing in more oxygen, therefore the fire is growing faster. Our flames are now starting to lick outside the original compartment. We're starting to move beyond that incipient stage fire. We're starting to get into what in fire service is referred to as growth stage. That growth stage is where the fire really starts to take off and begin to jump from room to room. If I shut this door right now, my smoke and the flaming is all going to start to move over here. Here in a minute, you should start to see flames come around and come out this window. If you were to encounter a fire of this nature where we now have one room burning, we're starting to move into getting a second one because there's an open pathway between the rooms. This is not a situation you're going to control. You get out, you find your nearest exit, get out of the house, shut the door behind you, because just like I showed earlier where you shut the door, fire will decay. That's going to allow, especially in rural West Virginia where your fire departments are farther away, have a longer response time, that's going to buy them time to be able to put the fire out with less water or maybe even save the house. It might be the difference in one room worth of damage versus a whole house worth of damage. So in an effort to help this draw a little better, we've removed the plug out of the second floor, open up the second floor window. Notice how more smoke is coming out the second floor because that heat and smoke is buoyant and it wants to rise. Notice how it catches on fire up here. By shutting that front door, look at how much that decreases. We still have flaming outside here. There's nothing burning inside. That's the smoke igniting outside the compartment. Again, same thing here. Look at how the smoke travels to the open window. That smoke is actually ignitable. Smoke is fuel. Smoke burns. It is the product of combustion, and it's unburnt fuel is all it is. It will light. So again, we've seen how the fire can move from, say, a kitchen to a living room. Now we're going to talk about those second floor bedrooms.
Ready?
Yeah. Typically, most bedrooms in a two-story home are going to be on the second floor, might be one on the first. Without something at the top of the stairwell blocking that, all our byproducts of combustion are going to naturally want to move up a stairwell. Basement fires, as long as that stairway door is closed at the top, it will keep the heat and the smoke into the basement. Generally, basement fires will actually snuff themselves out without the proper ventilation. But again, look how quickly that fire wants to move, and all that smoke wants to move to the second floor where those bedrooms could be. Versus, I'm going to shut this one for a second. If I open up this one here, look at the difference in the smoke color. I have some smoke, but it's white, it's full of moisture. It doesn't have as much of the hydrogen cyanide, the carbon monoxide, and it definitely does not have the heat to incapacitate a victim that may be stuck in there. 185 degrees for 20 seconds is something that a victim cannot withstand. So that's why we rapidly cool in the fire service. We try to put water as far ahead of us and make the environment as tenable as we can, as quick as we can. It may not always be immediately putting the fire out, but we're creating safe space for anybody that may be trapped in there. But with that low of temperatures, realize how important it is for the fire service to be able to get in there quickly and get them out. That's why a quick response saves lives. Again, let's open up this compartment one more time. Notice, this smoke over here does not want to light. It's full of moisture. It does not have all the ignitable components in it. It doesn't have a mixture. Even though it's right above the fire, it only has a 7/16 sheet of OSB separating it. Versus look at this room over here where the byproducts have to travel through another room to get there. Notice how much that stopped right there. Randy in the back just removed the ceiling and the roof openings. I'm sure you've saw fire departments go to the roof and cut a hole and wonder why are they up there doing that. Well, what Randy just did, you'll notice, this now became a fresh air intake. We got cooling the whole way through the box, and all our heat and all our smoke's coming out the top because all that heat wants to rise. If I were to now come over here and open up this compartment real quick, got much better visibility, still have some fire because it was burning before. Shut it back off. Still have smoke and heat in this one. But coming over here, we're still not there. We're starting to. They're starting to get more products of combustion, more smoke. It will eventually burn through in the floor below. But look at how much fire we have in all these other compartments, and this one is still as safe as it is. Close her off, Randy. Just shut the ceiling. That'll work. You can see the differences between the rooms. We've lost all integrity in the structural components down here, lots of fire. The fire is just now starting to move in up here because it's actually lapping from the bottom into the top. So probably one of the most teachable moments from this small scale exercise, especially for the people trying to get fire safety tips from this, is I want you to look at each of the 4 compartments we have open here for a second. So we started our fire down here. We referred to it as the kitchen or the entryway because there was a door here for us to open. Look at how much damage is in this compartment. All 4 walls are completely burnt. We've burnt the wall all the way out between it and compartment number 2. The exterior wall has actually degraded here to the point that it is not supporting anything else. The hole in the floor that was our stairwell between compartment 2 and compartment 3 is actually enlarged because it's burnt out around the edge, and all 4 walls in this compartment are completely charred, along with the whole front of the house. But if we come over here and we look inside the compartment that was the closed door bedroom, the OSB on the walls looks brand new. The OSB on the ceiling looks brand new. The OSB on the floor has just started to char on the bottom. It has just started to break down chemically and start to produce gases. The tenability of this room would have been far greater than even the room immediately adjacent to it, or definitely either of the rooms below it. So the take-home point is keep your doors closed at night whenever you're sleeping, especially with kids. I know it's terribly hard to have a child of my own. It's hard to close that door at night because we want to hear them if they wake up, but it is very important. Close your bedroom doors, have smoke detectors both in the hallway and inside each of the bedrooms so you're alerted early to the fire, but you're closed off from it, and the fire service can get to you via the window to that bedroom.
National Junior Firefighter Camp is in its 13th year. We gather kids from all over the country, ages 14 to 17, for training at the Jackson's Mill, the State Fire Academy next to Jackson's Mill. They're lodged over at the mill. They're there for a week. They get 5 days of training, all day and into the evening, most evenings. The kids are learning a little bit about all the different aspects of the emergency services, as in fire, EMS. We try to give them experience in every aspect, whether it's rescue, car wrecks, fires, even a little taste of the aircraft rescue firefighting. And in their second, third, and fourth year, we do some advanced training where we've even done some water rescue, rope rescue scenarios and those kind of things with them. We have kids, we've literally had them from as far away as Puerto Rico, Arizona. I had one young lady came for 4 years from Colorado, Maine. So we've had them from pretty much the entire United States. The more people you can train young, the better off you are because of, like I said, the standards that are required in almost every state, the minimum amount of training you need. If you can get kids interested early on and they can take that training once they turn 16 or even 18, then they're better off to serve their community because as they get older, if they want to join the local volunteer fire department, they don't have to go back through that training. They may need some refresher training, but they don't have to put in that 120 hours, which is required to be a volunteer firefighter in the state. So if you can get them young and get them trained and get them interested, they're way more likely to volunteer as they get older, no matter where their community is. 80% of the country and 90% of West Virginia are protected by volunteer firefighters. It's critical that we have these volunteers. And in the last 20 years, there's been a severe decline in the number of people volunteering. And so it's important that we get young people interested to continue a service that's basically been around since Ben Franklin.
So we'd like to give a big thank you out to all those who have supported things like the Junior Firefighter Academy over the years. With the downturn in volunteerism in the fire service, it is important for us to reach out to those that are young and able, that may eventually come back to the fire service even if they don't join their local fire department right now. One of the biggest issues impacting the fire service is just the lack of available volunteers and people that really have a passion for the volunteerism.
Next up, let's head over to Lauren and learn how you can support the firefighters of tomorrow.
The generosity of others plays an important role in our ability to offer this life-changing and life-saving experiences. I'm asking you to join us in supporting our future first responders with a gift to the Junior Fighter Camp. Your gift will be used to reduce the cost for campers and help purchase necessary equipment. The WVU Day of Giving is March 3rd. It's coming right up, and we're very excited to partner with all of our friends, students, alumni, faculty, staff, and community members across the state to benefit programs that are meaningful to you. Whether that's 4-H, your county program, or state programs, with your help, you can keep us at the top of the leaderboard to win additional funds for the greatest needs throughout the state. We're proud that the Day of Giving helps us raise funds for our students, but even more important, this day generates excitement across WVU's campuses and the state. Private support has become more critical than ever to fulfilling our land-grant mission, including education, healthcare, and prosperity in West Virginia. This past year has undoubtedly been challenging for everyone, but we all know that Mountaineers are tougher. So let's come together and support a great cause. If you've never given, what a perfect time to make your first donation. Join us on March 3rd for the WVU Day of Giving. March 3rd is the day, don't forget. Let's work together to build a stronger tomorrow.
We're thankful. The legislature gives us a grant to train volunteers and firefighters around the state each year. So we're very fortunate that we have the legislature, the governor, and the private industry to help us to make sure we're doing the best training for these firefighters.
So we'd like to give a big thank you out to all those who have supported things like the Junior Firefighter Academy over the years. With the downturn in volunteerism in the fire service, it is important for us to reach out to those that are young and able, that may eventually come back to the fire service even if they don't join their local fire department right now. One of the biggest issues impacting the fire service is just the lack of available volunteers and people that really have a passion for the volunteerism.
Thanks for joining us on WVU Extension today. We hope you learned some tips and tricks that you can use in your own home. Stay safe, stay warm, and we'll see you next time.